Hello students, welcome to my class of Animal Ecology. Today we are learning the chapter Ecosystem. For our convenience, I have divided this chapter into two parts. In this first part, we'll be learning about types of ecosystem, structure and composition of ecosystem, concept of eutrophication in lakes and rivers. In the second part, we'll be learning food chain, ecological pyramids, food web and energy flow. So what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is the basic functional unit of ecology. It includes both living and non-living environment. Ecosystem was first proposed by A.G. Tansley in 1935. Ecosystem and environment shows reciprocal relationship. Organism depends upon its environment for substance and the environment provides the organism with the substratum for the various life activities. This structural and functional relationship of organisms and the environment is called ecological system or ecosystem. What are the components of ecosystem? Ecosystem includes both biotic and abiotic components, living and non-living component. Abiotic components include sunlight, wind, water, soil. Biotic components include autotrophs, heterotrophs. Autotrophs who can synthesize their own food material. Heterotrophs, they depend on others for the synthesis of food material. And heterotrophs are further divided into holozoic, parasites and saprophytes organisms. So this is another presentation of showing the structure of ecosystem. Now here biotic factors are divided into producers, consumers and decomposers. Consumers are further classified into primary consumers, they are the herbivores. Secondary consumers, they are primary carnivore, and tertiary consumers, they are secondary carnivores. Abiotic component includes organic, inorganic and climatic factors. So the gist of this two slide is included here in this slide. So this is the structure of ecosystem. Ecosystem is broadly classified into living components and non-living components, or these are the components of the ecosystem. Then biotic components are further divided into producers, consumers and decomposers. Consumers are further classified as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and detrivores. Abiotic components are classified as inorganic substances, organic substances and climatic substances. These are the biotic components of ecosystem. Producers, it includes all the plants and chemosynthetic bacteria. Consumers includes all animals. Decomposers, it includes bacteria and fungi. So what are producers? We all know that sunlight is the main energy source for life on earth. So the producers, they are also called as autotrophs, which are using this sunlight as the main energy source. They use light or chemical energy to synthesize their food material. So who are the main producers? Plants, plant-like protists like algae, bacteria. Plants synthesize their own food material with the help of a process called as photosynthesis. Here in photosynthesis, they use light energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and carbohydrate molecule or a glucose molecule. This is the equation for that. And some bacteria, they perform chemosynthesis through which they use chemical energy to produce carbohydrates. So these are the producers. Now consumers. Consumers are the organisms that rely on other organisms for their energy and food supply. They are also called as heterotrophs. As producers are called as autotrophs, they can synthesize their own food materials. Consumers are called as heterotrophs. Consumers eats either other plant or animal in the food chain. All the animals, they are consumers. And remember this thing, that consumers are the food for the decomposers. Consumers are further classified as herbivores, who eats only plants. They are strictly vegetarian. And carnivores, they eat only animals. There are a few organisms who can eat both plants as well as animals. They are called as omnivores. Even human being is the best example of omnivore. Then the most important component of ecosystem are decomposers. Decomposers feed on or breaks down dead plants and animals. Decomposers provide food for producers. Decomposers are fungi, bacteria, and besides fungi and bacteria, in certain ecosystem, worms, crabs and some insects, they function as decomposers. Now let us learn abiotic component of ecosystem. The term abiotic means non-living, and thus the abiotic components refers to non-living elements present in the ecosystem. So the first abiotic component is inorganic substances. The inorganic substances include different types of nutrient elements such as carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus and water. These elements are essential for the synthesis of organic substances, and that is the reason they are called as biogenetic substances. So inorganic substances are called as biogenetic substances. These nutrients keep on circulating in the ecosystem through various trophic levels. They are first utilized by producers to form organic substances, which then passed on to the consumers. From consumers, these are released in the environment in the form of undigested food or dead protoplasm, which is then decomposed by decomposers and made again available in the soil for the recycling. So these are the inorganic substances. Organic substances, these are the substances which form the body of the organisms, or they are derived from their excretions. They include proteins, lipids, carbohydrate and highly organized molecules like DNA, RNA, ATP. These organic substances link the biotic component of the ecosystem with the abiotic component. So organic components, organic substances, why they are important? Because they are the link between biotic and abiotic component of the ecosystem. The next abiotic component of ecosystem is climate. It is complex system which involves the interaction of solar radiations, water, gases to produce number of variables like heat, dust, storm, wind, rain, fog, snow, etc. This determines the population of producers and consumers, the extent of removal of organic detritus from the atmosphere and the extent of circulation of nutrients. So these are the abiotic component of ecosystem. What is the function of ecosystem? The first important function of ecosystem is it regulates the essential ecological processes, supports life system and renders stability. It is also responsible for the cycling of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. It maintains the balance among the various trophic levels in the ecosystem. It cycles the minerals through the biosphere. The abiotic components help in synthesis of organic components that involves the exchange of energy. Now, major ecosystem. There are two main ecosystems, natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. Artificial ecosystem, they are all man-made ecosystems. They are not naturally present, so they are man-made ecosystem. Example is crop, urban areas, industrial areas, laboratory space. These are all artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, it is further classified into two parts: terrestrial ecosystem including all land area, and aquatic ecosystem which includes the whole water content of the earth. Aquatic ecosystem, it is further classified into freshwater and marine water. Freshwater is further classified into lentic water bodies, that is standing water bodies. It includes lakes, ponds, ditch, swamp, and lotic water bodies, which includes running water, river, spring, and streams. Terrestrial ecosystem is further classified into forest, grassland, mountain, tundra, desert, this kind of ecosystem. This is again another pictorial representation of the natural ecosystem: aquatic and terrestrial. Aquatic is further classified into freshwater and marine water, and terrestrial is classified into forest, grassland, mountain, desert, and tundra. Let us learn about terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem is classified into different ecosystems such as forest ecosystem. A forest ecosystem consists of several plants, particularly trees, animals, and microorganisms that live in coordination with the abiotic factors of the environment. Forests are important as they help in maintaining the temperature of the earth, and they are the major carbon sink. The second type of terrestrial ecosystem is grassland ecosystem. In grassland ecosystem, the vegetation is dominated by grasses and herbs. Temperate grassland and tropical or savanna grassland are examples of grassland ecosystem. Grassland ecosystem, it is home for many organisms like elephants, giraffes, hyenas, jackrabbits, lions, zebras. The next ecosystem is desert ecosystem. Deserts are found throughout the world, and these are the regions with very little rainfall and scarce vegetation. The days are hot and nights are very cold, so drastic change in the climate is found in the desert ecosystem. According to the climate and temperature, desert ecosystem are further classified into two parts: hot desert and cold desert. Sahara is the example of hot desert, which is categorized by high temperatures associated with very little rainfall and complicated life for both plants and animals. Cold desert, the example is Ladakh. It is cold desert which is found on eastern side of Jammu and Kashmir near Great Himalaya. It is also habitat of many organisms like camel, foxes, hyenas, jackals, scorpions, few species of snakes, and lizards. Mountain ecosystem are characterized by harsh environmental conditions. This includes often long-lasting snow cover, short growing seasons, and topographically related disturbances such as avalanches, rockfall, or landslides. The next type of ecosystem is tundra ecosystem. Tundra, this word denotes polar regions. This ecosystem is characterized by very harsh environment similar to desert. It is a snow covered and treeless ecosystem. These are covered with snow for most of the year. Tundra type of ecosystem is found in Arctic or mountain tops. These regions are available near polar regions. Now let us learn different types of forest ecosystem. These types are named after different zones found on our earth, and these zones are named in this diagram. This is the equator, and beside equator the zone is named as tropical zone. Beside tropical zone, this is the temperate zone, and beside temperate zone, this is the polar region, Arctic zone. So these are the different zones, and the forest ecosystems present in these zones are named accordingly as tropical evergreen rainforest or tropical evergreen forest. This forest is characterized by deep and dense vegetation consisting of tall trees reaching different levels. The second type is tropical deciduous rainforest. The main characteristic of tropical deciduous rainforest are broad-leaved trees along with dense bushes, shrubs, etc. There are two main seasons which are present in tropical deciduous rainforest. These are summer and winter. And this type of forest is found in many parts of the world. Large variety of flora and fauna is present in tropical deciduous rainforest. Then the third type is temperate evergreen forest. Temperate evergreen forest is a type of forest that is characterized by a smaller number of trees but an adequate number of ferns and mosses. The next type is temperate deciduous forest. Temperate deciduous forest evolves in the moist temperate region with sufficient rainfall. So this particular forest has got sufficient rainfall. Here also winter and summer are very well defined, and the peculiarity of temperate deciduous forest is what? That trees shed their leaves during the winter. Dominant trees here are maple, oak and peach. Then the fifth type of forest ecosystem is taiga or boreal forest ecosystem. This type of forest ecosystem, it is situated near the tundra region, that is polar region, characterized by evergreen conifers, and average temperature in this region is below freezing point for almost half of the year. What is importance of forest ecosystem? Why forest ecosystem is very important? The first important point is it provides warm temperature and sufficient rainfall, which results in the formation of numerous ponds, lakes, etc. It supports many wild animals and protects biodiversity. The soil is rich in organic matter and nutrient which support the growth of trees. There are many goods which we obtain from forest. There are many food products like honey, wild meat, mushrooms, palm oil we obtain from the forest. Many medicinal plants we get from the forest. Along with this, we also get timber, wood biomass from the forest area. And even fuel can be extracted from the old trees buried under the soil of the forest. It is important as forest plays very crucial role in maintaining ecological factors such as climate, rainfall, carbon storage and nutrient cycle. Forest is a habitat of many tribal communities whose traditional beliefs and spirituality save wild animals from hunters and cutting down of trees by urban people. And the most important, many people like us visit forest for the recreation. So all these reasons tells us that why forest ecosystem is very important. Now let us learn about aquatic ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem, it is divided into freshwater ecosystem and marine water ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem is classified as lotic habitat, which includes major river system and streams. These are running water ecosystem. And lentic habitat, it includes standing water ecosystem. These are lakes, ponds, swamps, bogs and many other succession of lakes. Marine ecosystem, it includes oceans and seas. There are 5 major oceans on the earth. They are Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean and the Southern Oceans. And among these 5 oceans, Pacific Ocean is the largest and deepest of these 5, while Atlantic is the second largest in terms of size. Estuaries are typically the meeting point of seas and river, which makes the water slightly more saline when compared to the fresh water and more diluted when compared to the marine ecosystem. Then coral reefs. Coral reefs, they are fondly called as rainforest of the oceans, as they harbor a wide variety or wide diversity of aquatic flora and fauna. Coral reefs, actually it is animal. We'll learn it further in our next lecture. So these are the coral reefs which I showed you in this picture. Then the coastal ecosystem. Coastal ecosystems are formed when land and water meets. The structure, variety and energy flows of this ecosystem are very unique. So this is about the freshwater and marine ecosystem. What is the function of aquatic ecosystem? The most wealthiest and productive ecosystem on the planet which facilitate recycling of the nutrient. The first important function, what it is the most wealthiest and productive ecosystem on planet which facilitates recycling of nutrients. It helps to purify water. It recharges groundwater. It is a habitat for aquatic flora and fauna. It mitigates flood. It helps to regulate the hydrological cycle and acts as a pollution filter, among other things. So these are the important functions of the aquatic ecosystem. Now we'll learn different kinds of ecosystem. We'll start with lotic habitat. These aquatic ecosystems are characterized by rapidly flowing water. So this is rapidly flowing water. For example, rivers, streams. They are hub of wide variety of insects like beetles, mayflies, stoneflies, etc. And it also harbors species like river dolphins, beavers, otters and trout. So this is lotic habitat, running water habitat. Then comes lentic habitat. Lentic habitat includes standing water bodies. These are these water bodies contain stagnant water. The example is lakes. Lakes are inland depression containing standing water. They vary in size from small pond of less than hectares to large seas covering thousands of square kilometer. They vary in depth from few centimeter to few thousand meter. Now, pond ecosystem. So what are ponds? Ponds are small bodies of standing water so shallow that rooted plants can grow over most of the bottom. Now here you can see this is the pond ecosystem. Now pond ecosystem, it is this ecosystem, it shows different zones based on distance, penetration of light and depth. The first zone is littoral zone. Littoral zone is closer to the shore. It contains shallow water and allows easy penetration of light. Rooted plant species occupy it. Animal species includes in littoral zone are crawfish, snails and insect. The next zone is limnetic zone. Limnetic zones refers to the open water of the pond with an effective penetration of light. This zone is dominated by phytoplanktons. Animal species mainly include in limnetic zones are small fishes and insects. Then comes the profundal zone. This region of pond below the limnetic zone is called profound zone with no effective light penetration. Light penetration will not be there in the profundal zone. Some amphibians and small turtles can live in this area. Then the last zone is benthic zone. The bottom zone of a pond is benthic and is occupied by a community of decomposers. And decomposers, they are called as benthos. Decomposers here in pond ecosystem, will call them as benthos. So these are the different zones present in pond ecosystem. Pond ecosystem includes biotic as well as abiotic components. Abiotic components are the non-living components of an ecosystem that matter for the aquatic species survival. So this include light. Light serves as a main abiotic component that require for the photosynthetic activities of the phytoplankton. The littoral zone has the maximum light penetration, whereas the profundal zone has least light penetration. Temperature is the second important abiotic component. As the depth of the pond increases, the temperature of the water gradually decreases due to the gradual decrease in light penetration. Then the next important abiotic component is dissolved oxygen. The amount of dissolved oxygen is maximum in the shallow water and gradually it decreases while moving from the surface to the depth of the pond. The biotic component of the pond ecosystem includes obviously the first biotic component is producers. These include species of rooted, submerged, emerged, floating plants and algae. The most common filamentous algae which we found in pond is Spirogyra. And besides Spirogyra, Mogiotia and Zygonema are also algae which we found in pond. Azola, Hydrilla, Pistia, Wolfia, Lemnia, Ecornia. These are some of the examples of green plants which are available in the pond ecosystem. Then biotic component also includes primary consumers. A large population of zooplanktons are the main primary consumers. Now, besides these small herbivores like snail, insect, small fishes, tadpole, larvae of aquatic animals are the primary consumers often we found in the pond. Secondary consumers include animal species such as frogs, big fishes, water snakes, crabs, etc. The consumers of the highest order might include mammals like water shrews, water wolves, herons, ducks, kingfishers, etc. Decomposers, these includes different types of bacteria and fungi that fed upon dead and decaying parts of the aquatic species. So these are the biotic component of the pond ecosystem. Now we know which are the biotic components of the pond ecosystem. Now we should also know about the food chain in the pond ecosystem. Phytoplanktons and algae serve as the producer that converts solar energy into the chemical energy. So in the food chain, pond ecosystem food chain, it will always starts with the phytoplanktons and algae as they are the main producers. Phytoplankton is being consumed by zooplankton. They are the primary consumers. The food chain is further proceeds with the small pond species that feed on zooplankton. Small pond species are eaten by large pond species, and a number of bacteria and fungi fed upon dead and decaying parts of the animal species and are therefore called as the decomposers. Now decomposers convert the organic matter into inorganic component that are again utilized by the producers, and hence the continuous flow of energy is maintained in the pond ecosystem. Now here in the picture I've shown you the food chain. Algae is being eaten by tadpole. Tadpole is being eaten by big fish, and this big fish is eaten by the stork. So this is example of food chain in the pond ecosystem. Now let us learn about eutrophication. Students, you must have noticed a water body, or especially pond, which is full of plants, and it smells dirty. So eutrophication is the term which will give you answer that why the sometimes this ponds appears to us like this. Eutrophication is the process in which a water body becomes overly enriched with nutrients, leading to plentiful growth of simple plant life. Now the excessive growth, or we can call it as a bloom, of algae and plankton in the water body are indicator of the process of eutrophication. Eutrophication is considered to be serious environmental concern. Why? Because it often results in the deterioration of water quality and the depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water bodies. Eutrophic water can eventually become dead zones that are incapable of supporting life. What are the main causes of eutrophication? The first thing is the availability of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. They are going to limit the growth of plant life in an ecosystem. if these components, nitrogen and phosphorus, these are inorganic component. If they are available in large quantity, there will be more growth. If they are available in limited quantity, there will be less growth. When water bodies are overly enriched with these nutrients, the growth of algae, plankton and other simple plant life is favored over the growth of the more complex plant life. Now here phosphate tends to stick to the soil and are transported along with it. Therefore, soil erosion is the major contribution to the phosphorus enrichment of water bodies. Some other phosphorus rich sources that enrich the water body with the nutrient, they include fertilizers, untreated sewage, detergent containing phosphorus, industrial discharge as well as agricultural waste. Now the excessive growth of algae in the eutrophic water is accompanied by generation of large biomass. Now we know in the previous slide what we learned, because of nitrogen and phosphorus, when the pond or water body becomes overloaded by nitrogen and phosphorus, there will be more growth of algae and plants, and this excessive growth of this algae and plant, which we called as a bloom of algae or plant in eutrophic water, is accompanied by generation of large biomass of a dead algae. This dead algae then sink to the bottom of the water body, where they are broken down by the bacterium, which consume oxygen in a process. Now the overconsumption of oxygen leads to the hypoxic condition. What is hypoxic condition? This is the condition in which the availability of oxygen is very low in the water body. The hypoxic condition lead to the suffocation and eventual death of the larger life forms such as fish. So in eutrophic lake or eutrophic ponds, you will observe larger organisms, they die in that water body. What is effect of eutrophication? First effect of eutrophication is decrease in biodiversity and increase in water toxicity. Invasion of a new species. A limiting nutrient corresponding to a water body can be made abundant by the eutrophication process, leading to a shift in the species composition of the aquatic body and the ecosystem surrounding it. If a nitrogen deficient water body is suddenly enriched with it, many other competitive species might relocate to the water body and outcompete the original inhabitants of the ecosystems. So this is the invasion of a new species. Phytoplanktons can grow much faster in such situation, and these phytoplankton species are toxic and are inedible. Gelatinous zooplankton blooms fast in these waters, in the eutrophic water, and increased biomass of epiphytic and benthic algae can be observed in the eutrophic water. There are significant changes arise in the species composition and macrophytes and the biomass. The water loses its transparency and develops a bad smell and color. The treatment of this water becomes difficult. There is depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water body due to eutrophication, and frequent fish kill incidents occur, and many desirable fish species are removed from the water body due to eutrophication. The population of shellfish and harvestable fish are lowered due to eutrophication. The most important thing is the aesthetic value of the water body also diminishes significantly due to eutrophications. So all these are the effect of eutrophication. Students, I hope you understand this topic. If you have any doubt, you can mail me. Thank you.